Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 episode review, this time from Season 2, the first episode of Season 2 for Blake 7. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this episode and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen this episode or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? Season 2 kicks off by resolving everything that was left over from Season 1, and then it adds absolutely nothing to the story arc that we will be presented with in Series 2. Redemption has nothing to do with the Federation, although it looks like the Federation and the system would be best of friends, given their need for totalitarian control of their subjects, or maybe they wouldn't be best of friends because they'd want to control the other. What we do have is the conclusion to a probably unintentional trilogy of Deliverance, Aurak, and now Redemption. But really, Redemption is a Blake 7 episode that could stand outside of the Blake 7 universe. Only that cliffhanger from the end of Season 1 connects it to the rest. That said, I find Redemption a thoroughly exciting, intelligently written, and hugely engaging episode. If I wanted to introduce someone to Blake 7, I might show this season premiere instead of the way back. That may not fully reflect the spirit of what Blake 7 is all about, and I'd have to explain that this follows a cliffhanger from the previous episode, but if I want someone to want to keep watching Blake 7, this episode will supply the hook, if not the background. Having left the end of Season 1 with Aurak's prediction that at some time in the future the Liberator will be destroyed, the beginning of Season 2 focuses on this very point. I know that sounds like an obvious thing that this episode would do, but unfortunately there is at least one example where we seem to ignore what we should be focusing on. See my upcoming review of Voice from the Past. Anyway, focusing on Redemption, Blake is going over Aurak's recording of the Liberator's destruction again and again, which suggests that not too much time has gone by, although his remark to Avon, Aurak's prediction still hasn't come true, would indicate that a fair chunk of time has gone by. And given his growing obsessive behaviour, maybe he would be continually going over and over the recording for as long as it occupies his mind. While Avon reveals to him a loophole in the prediction, the Liberator is randomly attacked by two smaller vessels, causing precise damage to the Liberator that causes it to fly at maximum speed in a specific direction. Spoiler alert, the attackers are the Alters, aka the people that built the Liberator. The more astute of you will now guess what will become of Aurak's prediction. In my opinion, however, that takes nothing away from the episode. The rest of the episode focuses on the crew's capture and attempts at escaping. Enough said about the plot. You need to watch it. I love the fact that the scout ships actually look like they're part of the Liberator's fleet. The similar design, the globe at the rear of the craft. I also like the way the situation is explained. It's basic exposition, but it's the perfect way of revealing the situation, and it never loses its pace or excitement. I also think it's good that they didn't hold back as to who was attacking them. The fact that Jenna, Avon and Blake reveal that it is the people who built the Liberator who are actually attacking them. It's not held back for long, even if they do risk revealing the twist at the end as to which craft is going to be destroyed. Each character gets at least a partial chance to shine and show what they're all about in this episode. Even Gang gets to bust a few heads. The pace is fast moving, and it's interesting that the first three of our heroes who boarded the Liberator back in Spacefall, aka Blake, Avon and Jenna, are the three we're focusing on while the rest of the crew and the ship are captured. In fact, looking at that original three, in terms of the sniping that goes on between Blake and Avon, I find it interesting that the episode is bracketed between two such scenes, and their relevance to each other is fascinating. The first scene deals with Avon revealing a possible means to, for all intents and purposes, cheat their way out of Aurak's prediction by avoiding the location where it apparently happens. Blake pulls Avon up on his holding back this information for several hours. Avon simply replies that there will come a time when they will not look to Blake for the decisions. Blake's possible reply is cut off by the Alters' attack, but the rest of the episode is filled with subtle and not so subtle exchanges between them. The final scene is of course Avon questioning the decision to go back to the Earth sector. Blake not really answering and then telling Avon to go back to his position. This could well be his response to Avon's earlier declaration that the crew will one day not look to Blake. That may well be true, Avon, says Blake, but right now I'm still in charge of them. And you. Avon would no doubt disagree with this assessment, as might the rest of the crew, but the delay in Avon actually obeying the order, is it that Avon may obey it, but delays long enough to get his point across to Blake, Or is it that regardless of any delay, Avon obeys Blake? Yes, I concede Avon would have to have had walked off at some point. He couldn't have remained at Blake's shoulder for too much longer, but I think the point is made, and it's summed up quite brilliantly in the Cold War that is raging on the Liberator between them. Of course, while the two of them are on the Liberator, that's exactly how it stays, a Cold War. The segment involving the Cable threatening to kill Blake. Moments earlier, Avon asks Blake as to what's happening where he is. Blake shrugs him off with, "I'll call you if I need you." About 30 seconds later, of course, he does need him. He calls Avon specifically to, for all intents and purposes, save his life. And Avon does. And when Avon gets trapped in the room, Blake tries to save him. All the poisonous words between them, all the warnings to Blake as to who will be running the Liberator one day, and the responding put-downs back to Avon, and yet, through all the BS, they are still willing to try and protect the other, sometimes at risk to their own life. And this is something else that happens throughout the series. Does this sound like two guys who want the other dead? Does it sound like conflicting ambitions and goals, coupled with the conflicts of righteousness against self-service, are perhaps as much to blame for their constant antagonism, rather than a genuine wish of death from one on the other, and vice versa? Does everyone get a headache trying to work out what the status quo really is between these two? There are several points along the way that would suggest one or the other. All I know is that it's one of many reasons why Blake 7 has the richest of characters, something that made these first two seasons work so well, something that after Blake went AWOL didn't quite get recaptured between Avon and Tarrant, and was pretty much abandoned for season 4. There are plenty of episodes that obviously touch this point, probably all of them in the first two seasons, but I love how Redemption starts with it and ends with it, and even then there's still not really an obvious winner. Or is there? What do you think? There are some who may complain that this episode is too separate from the rest of the series, and as such cannot add anything to the forthcoming story, other than Blake reminding us who the real baddies are at the end of the episode. But sometimes to go forward, one has to look back, and in terms of looking for where we came from, or in this case, where did the Liberator come from, it's an important question I'm pleased got answered by one of the 52 episodes we were given. The Liberator pretty well just showed up in Spacefall. It managed to work in that episode, but the origins of this wonderful and mysterious ship needed some backstory, and wisely this did not remain in the dark for long. By having the reveal at the beginning of the second season, it actually provides something of a nice recap for the series thus far, especially through the comfy chair interrogation that Blake goes through with one of the Outers. There's still some mystery surrounding how the Liberator was first discovered, but enough answers provided to satisfy the more nitpicky fans, aka me. It also gives a flavour of what Blake is trying to achieve in his quest. No, the system is not the Federation, but as I've said already, both the Federation and the system would speak admirably or enviously of each other, given their similar stance on totalitarian control, and the fact that they appear to have achieved this oppressive feat. The fact that Blake is fighting the system and the Outers in this episode, well, he might as well be fighting the Federation. And given we're not to see the Outers or the system ever again, Blake might as well have fun killing a few of their guards, as well as have the system go into destruct mode towards the end. We can just enjoy the ride, perched on the edge of our seats. No, it's not a perfect episode. There are the inevitable holes that people can pick in it, and I'm perfectly aware that the more proficient of reviewers don't see this one as anything special, but I believe it could have been stretched into a two-parter. So, as a single episode, it packs quite a wallop. In fact, it feels more like a mini-movie. The fact that there's this immense baddie system for our heroes to escape from. There's a lot crammed into 50 minutes, but it doesn't feel rushed or superfluous, and the writing and acting is as polished as ever. The bridge between seasons 1 and 2 belongs to both and neither of these seasons. Redemption is as individual a Blake 7 episode as they come, for all the right reasons. Immense fun, and given some of the deadwood that awaited us in season 2, we need all the fun we can get. That concludes my review on Redemption. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, please share this video, please subscribe to my channel, and please feel free to check out my other Blake 7 episode reviews. And I will be providing a blood transfusion to that poor Cable. Cheerio!